Hello, everybody. I hope you can hear us pretty well, and we will wait a little bit for everyone to come. We're here today to speak about the urgent measures that you can take if you're considering moving from Israel to Canada because of the active phase of the war that is going on there. My name is Olena Palatnik. I'm the regulated Canadian immigration consultant, and we're here to help you in the once and again war that happened in the world. I myself was born in Ukraine, who doesn't know, in Odessa city, and I have a lot of family members right now living in Israel. So it's hard even to explain how close to myself I feel the pain of those people who struggle from the war in Ukraine and from the war in Israel right now. Please give me some signs that you can hear me well. And this live stream is in English language, so you can understand it, and the more citizens of Israel can understand what am I talking about and to use this information and to probably maybe consider moving to Canada temporarily or permanently. And we will talk today about the options that you have. It is important to note that there is no any special measures taken officially by the government of Canada whatsoever, considering the citizens of Israel. The only special measure is that the Canadian government is helping Canadian permanent residents and citizens of Canada get out of Israel right now, to evacuate the people of Canada from Israel. It has nothing to do with people who are Israelis or other nationalities who are staying now in Israel. I do understand the shock you have. The only thing you have to do, I'm telling this by the experience, we already have a personal experience from the Ukraine, just try to not to panic from what is happening right now. And there are a lot of options, but the thing that you need to remember is that nobody owes you anything in the world right now. It's a pity, I'm sorry, but that's what it is. You have always to fight, and you have always to prove someone, especially to the government of Canada, that you are good enough to settle out there. So what we also can do, except this live stream, is that we are opening several slots. We have a quote for the consultations in our center about the immigration options to Canada, and the quote is until spring 2024. But for the citizens of Israel who now have the situation that doesn't give them so much time to think, we are opening several slots for the consultations, hourly consultations. If you have any personal questions, please write directly to us. In the direct message, please indicate Israel 2023 and leave your contact details, and the operator will get in touch with you in order to schedule a consultation if you need one, just to personalize the consultation and to give you the options that you personally have if you're considering moving to Canada from Israel right now. This live stream is only for those who are affected by the situation in Israel. All other people, we are open for you, but again, today it's not about you, it's about everybody who is stuck in Israel and is suffering from the war. So let's go further. As I said, Canada doesn't have any special measures for the citizens of Israel right now, but you have a very big bonus in comparison with other citizens of the world. Israel has a kind of free waiver visa situation with Canada, which means that you actually don't need to submit an application to get a visitor visa to Canada. You have the opportunity to submit an electronic travel authorization. The difference is very big. Electronic travel authorization, this is the small application form, and I will leave the website link to this specific electronic travel authorization application in the comments when we finish this live stream. You will be able to go to this link, you put in all your basic information, you pay, if I'm not mistaken, 4 Canadian dollars, and it usually takes from 24 to 72 hours to get a result, and then you get a kind of email which says this is your electronic travel authorization, which gives you the right to enter Canada. And with this electronic travel authorization, then you have a good luck, if you do, to find a ticket to Canada. You fly to Canada, and on the border, let's say your first airport where you arrive is Toronto, usually Pearson Airport, and the immigration officer on the border will decide for how long he is okay to let you into Canada as a visitor. It is very important. It's not a special measure. It's not working in Canada, not studying in Canada. You will not have those rights. It's just the right to stay in Canada, have some, I don't know, excursions, touristic attractions, just to spend time with the family or friends if you have someone. But this is nothing with any additional rights in the country. So this is the way where you can come to Canada and wait until the war in Israel is over. Hopefully it doesn't take too long, but from what we see now, I don't even know how to comment it. Still, electronic travel authorization does give you the right to come to Canada, but it doesn't give you actually the right to stay for a specific period of time. The immigration officer on the border will decide. By default, they usually give you the right to stay for 6 months, but it may be different. They will ask you questions on the border. Why have you come? What are you planning to do here? And if the officer feels by your answers that you are planning to stay longer, that you are not coming just for a visit, that you are planning to, I don't know, change your status further, they may even not let you in. So you need to have a scenario which will say, I came now to visit my friends and I'm going to stay with them at this type of city, at this province, and I came for, let's say, 3 weeks and I'm going to be back. And it's a good idea to have a return ticket, which you can then change for another date, but still, to be on a safe side, it's better to have a return ticket too, so that the government on the border doesn't have too many concerns about your situation. Now, it is also important to note that when we say that you have the right to stay in Canada with electronic travel authorization and with your temporary resident status for, say, by default 6 months, then you will have to leave. So in your passport, they will put a stamp and it will stay eligible to stay in Canada for, say, 3 months or 6 months. So by the end of this period, you have to leave Canada, anywhere but leave. It is important to note that starting November 30, 2023, so it's approximately in a month time or more, a little bit more, the government of the United States of America, probably knowing something beforehand, announced that they are going to waive a visa regime for Israel as well, which means that starting November 30, 2023, you will be able also to submit a kind of electronic travel authorization, but to the United States. And if you stayed in Canada for this part of time and you feel that you have to leave Canada because the entitled period has already expired or is going to expire very soon, then you can submit an application to the United States. And if they approve your electronic travel authorization, they will be able to let you into the US. You will spend some time there, and then you can also move back to Canada, because the electronic travel authorization issued by Canada is usually valid for approximately 10 years, but you have to come and go. Every time you cross the border of Canada, you have to prove and explain why are you coming. It is not an automatic thing that you have an electronic travel authorization and they will let me in anytime. No, it doesn't work that way. It works only like that you have the right to come, but whether you have the right to stay, it is decidable by the border officer that will interview you every time that you arrive to Canada. Now, if you have decided to come to Canada with an electronic travel authorization, you received it, you bought the tickets, you need to remember that you need money. I understand the situation. I understand that the best luck is that you just leave Israel right now and have an opportunity to find tickets and that your flight is not canceled. But if you have this luck, you need also to remember that Canada is not that cheap country. You will have a lot of expenses and nobody owes you anything. Once again, there are no special measures from Canada right now for the citizens of Israel. So you will need a place to stay. You will need some transport and logistics expenses. You will have something to eat, and for all this you need money. You just need to remember, depending on the province and the city you are planning to move to, the only thing they can do is to phone and find any friends and connections in Canada that can help you with the hostage. So just to stay for some time with friends and family that if you have there. If you do not, there are a lot of Jewish communities in Canada. Sometimes it's a local community, like a city community. In most cases, these are provincial communities, Jewish communities. Depending on where you want to go, it is a good idea to contact the Jewish community and say that you are coming and that you will need help, and that you are coming to stay for as long as the war goes in Israel, just to wait to put your kids in a safe place temporarily. And maybe the Jewish community will be able to assist you in the basic needs that you may have in the very beginning of your stay. Please note that you do not have the right to work with an electronic travel authorization. You will not be able to go and find an employer, and even if you address and approach the Canadian employer, they will say, yes, we like you, but you do not have any kind of work permit. So that's why we cannot employ you. What you can do, if you have an online distance work, and you can continue doing it being in any other country, please do. This is okay, because this doesn't have anything to do with working actually in the jurisdiction of Canada. You're working in the jurisdiction of Israel, for example, or any other international company that you're working for, and you're just like a digital nomad. You're just staying in Canada temporary and working from there, and in this case, you can work. There is no employment options with an ETA if we speak about employing yourself inside Canada. Now, let's go further. You have to consider the options of legalizing your status for longer, to have the right to work, for your kids to have the right to study, for example, because if the war continues long enough, you will not have enough funds to support yourself. There are several options how you can legalize yourself and receive the right to work or to study or even get a permanent resident status in Canada. First and foremost, if you are already in the legal process of immigration to Canada, we have several people who have already contacted us that we are at the final stage of immigration process. We have already gone through the medical exams, or we have already submitted the permanent residency application. We want to make it faster. We want the government of Canada to know that we are not in a safe place, and we need our case with permanent residency to get to the result faster. So please help us. What you can do in order to make the processing of your permanent residency application faster is there is a crisis form, and I will also leave a link in the comments after the live stream. You can submit the crisis form. This is not an official thing, guys. I'm just telling you based on the experience of the war in Ukraine. You submit this urgent crisis form with the title Israel 2023, like we did with Ukraine 2022. And you explain the situation that the war has started and you are highly affected with the war and you're afraid of the life of your kids and your family, and your application is in process, and you have to show the application number, your UCI number, your full name, surname, date of birth, your email address, and explain that you are asking the government of Canada to urge the processing of your application and to give you the decision as soon as possible, because it's about the life and death. And maybe it will work. It is not a guarantee, but it may work. Now, the next thing that you can do when you, especially when you're already in the territory of Canada, for example, with an electronic travel authorization, there is a hotline of the Canadian government where you can call and also emphasize that you have an active application for permanent residency. And because of the situation in your home country, you're asking them to make it faster, to make the decision on your application faster. Maybe it will work. If you're not yet in the process of immigration to Canada, there is an option to submitting a refugee application, but this is a very, very risky thing. Now, what is a refugee application? When you come with an electronic travel authorization to Canada from Israel, you can submit an application and say that you are a refugee at the border, or you can just go inside the country as a visitor, have a consultation with the specialists who qualified and have experience with refugee cases. It's not us, okay? We can give some contacts, but the majority of them are, oh, I have a quote, but still, you have to find a specialist in Canada who works with refugee cases and first analyze whether it's worth doing it. I'm not the one who would say that it's a good idea to submit an application for refugee in Canada, and there are several explanations to that. First and foremost, when you submit an application for refugee, from the moment that you have said that you are a refugee until the moment that you get a Canadian citizenship, okay, not permanent residency. So you submitted an application or you said you're a refugee, then there will be a court it may take years, then probably you will be granted refugee status. You will get a permanent residency subsequently. After that, in 3 years or maybe less, you will get a Canadian citizenship. So it's approximately from 3 to 5 years we're talking about. So only in 3-5 years after you said that you want to be a refugee, you will be able to come back to Israel, because you are not given the right to return back to the country where you have fled from. Okay, we never know, and nobody knows right now how long will it take the war in Israel. It may take several days, several weeks, months, years. In Ukraine, we also thought that it's gonna take 2-3 weeks, but still we are here, and it's already almost 600 days of war. So in Israel, it can be the same case, but you need to remember that if you are a refugee already in Canada, you have no right to go back to your home country. That's number one. Number two is, let's say you have come, you have decided you wanted to submit the refugee application, you have submitted it already, and then the war in Israel is over and everything is fine, and the situation is stabilizing. You will have to leave. Okay, you will not be granted any refugee status, because there will be no problem for you to stay in Israel anymore. So it's a good idea not to use this variant only, and also it's important to say you have to be affected by the war in Israel directly. I would say people who are now living in the north and in the south of Israel are okay with this category, are eligible. Those who live in Ashkelon, for example, those who live closer to Haifa, higher there in the north, where all the active military actions are taking place. And these are the categories that can say, yes, I'm directly affected with everything that is happening in Israel. Those people who are living now in the middle of the country, Tel Aviv, Bat Yam, I don't know, Herzliya, other cities, you are comparatively safe. Okay, so it would be hard to prove to the government of Canada in the refugee case that you actually had any kind of troubles and you were not protected by the government of your country. So think twice before submitting an application for the refugee, even though there are chances, but still, we still don't know how long will it take. It may take a short period of time that the war is over, and then nobody's going to give you any refugee status. And also remember that if you are staying in Canada as a refugee or in the process of getting your refugee status, you have no right to submit any other immigration applications to whatsoever economic immigration programs with employer support, provincial programs, community support programs. No express entry, no federal skilled worker class, nothing. If you're a refugee, you're just staying and waiting. Yes, refugee program, when you have just submitted an application, the government will evaluate whether they can help you, whether you have enough money, or they can just assist you with some financial aid. And they may give you some money monthly for your basic needs. But believe me, it is not worth it, because you will have the right to work, for sure, when you are submitting an application for refugee and it goes to court. It can stay in the court in the line for 2, 3, 4 years, and you will be issued an open work permit so that you will be able to work in Canada. And your kids will be issued a study permit, and that will enable them to go to school. But still, the risks are too high that you're gonna be stuck there and won't be able to come back to your home country if and when everything stabilizes. If we're not considering the refugee, we have options when you are in Canada, for example, with an electronic travel authorization, and you can think about and move towards permanent residency with an economic programs. Means like when your candidature is evaluated upon your age, experience, education, knowledge of English language, your settlement funds, stuff like that. So the easiest pathway, I would say, and the most important advice first, is if you decide to go to Canada with an electronic travel authorization from Israel, don't go to Toronto or Vancouver. Please don't. It's a very bad idea, because these cities are too expensive for the start. There is very big competitive level among all people, and I really doubt that you will be able to find easy pathway to immigration and getting permanent residency in Canada if you stay in such a huge city. It's better to go to the cities that are have population not more than 100,000 people. The less, the better, because there people know each other, they will understand your situation, they will try to help you somehow, and it will be easier to find employment there. why you need an employment, because the majority of programs that will enable you to get your permanent residency and the right to work as fast as possible are connected with immigration with employer support. Means like, for example, it can be Atlantic Immigration Program, Rural and Northern Immigration Pilot, Provincial Program of the Province of New Brunswick with employer support, and the same kind of program in Manitoba Province, for example. In all these scenarios, you need to find an employer who is designated, means like the government of Canada and the local government of the province have already approved this employer to bring in and to support foreign workers. In this occasion, you need to have an educational credentials assessment done, which is your educational documents need to go through the, say, World Education Service or other designated organization that evaluates your diplomas towards immigration to Canada. The principal applicant, one of two adults in the family, needs to have IELTS General not less than 5.5, each model listening, reading, writing, speaking. And you need to have 1 to 2 years out of last 3-5 years of work experience in the profession that you are applying for. There are in Atlantic provinces like New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, Prince Edward Island, Newfoundland and Labrador. In these provinces, there are the lists of designated employers that can help you and employ you, and this will enable you to submit an application for permanent residency. So I would say you can go to New Brunswick, for example, look for the employer there when you are under the electronic travel authorization only as a visitor. And when and if you find an employer and he is okay employing you and you satisfy all other program requirements, he gives you the job offer. With that job offer, you will further get the support of the region and the provincial support. And after that, you will submit an application for permanent residency. You have no right to work all this time, remember. But when you submit the application for permanent residency with employer support, at the same time, you have the right to submit an application for the closed work permit, so that the employer doesn't wait for you to get a permanent residency to start the job, but rather you start as fast as possible. And the government of Canada will proceed with the work permit application first, and they will issue you the right to work with this specific employer who supported your application. When you start working with that employer, your immigration case is already in process, you're working, your spouse has open work permit in this case, and your kids get the right to study or a temporary residence state for 2 to 3 years. So you have much more flexibility in the country. You start earning, and in approximately 12 months, your processing of the permanent residency applications will be over, and you will get a permanent resident status. Until then, you have to stick to this employer, because your closed work permit doesn't give you the right to go to any other employer. This is one of the options. It's approximately the same in the scenario. Is approximately the same with all the countries. With all the provinces. Like in Manitoba, if you go to Manitoba, I recommend you, by the way, Manitoba, because in Winnipeg, we have one of the most strong Jewish communities in Canada, and I am sure that they will do everything they can to help you. So say you decided to come under electronic travel authorization to Winnipeg, then you address to the Jewish community, you start searching for the employer, you find the employer, then you submit an application for the provincial nomination. And with the provincial nomination, you will get the work permit support letter and be able to submit an application for work permit and keep staying in Manitoba, working until the permanent residency case is finalized and you get a permanent residency status. This is a very brief picture for you to understand that there are pathways for you, that there is a way that you can enter the country and stay there. The only thing that you need to remember is you have nobody to rely on during your first, let's say, 6 months when you stay in Canada. You have to rely on your own funds, okay? And only then, when you find the employer, go through all this procedure, you will be able to start working when you have the work permit from the Canadian government. If anything changes, like if in some 2 to 3 weeks, for example, the government of Canada introduces any special measures for the citizens of Israel, we will definitely inform you about it. But so far, it didn't happen, and I don't feel it will, exactly because you have the visa-free right to enter Canada with just an electronic travel authorization. The other thing that you can also try if you're already in Canada or entered Canada with electronic travel authorization, try small communities like Winkler, Morden. There you can also, it's Manitoba in my case, because I'm from Morden. That's why I know much more about the support that this region can give you. If you find the employer there, the city can support you, and that also enables you to submit an application for the provincial nomination. So the city where you go to also can help you. Rural and Northern Immigration Pilot is the program where small cities in different provinces of Canada also are searching for international workers to help them with the immigration process if they are approved by the local employer. So you can go to the Google, ask Rural and Northern Immigration Pilot, see the communities and cities that have the right to participate in this program, and address directly there. Find out whether your profession and your occupation may be in demand there. And if it's so, and you see that there are vacancies, you can just go straight there with electronic travel authorization and start searching for the employer there. There is also an immigration program in Manitoba with the Jewish community support. But for this program, you need to have an express entry profile, which is much more complicated for those who have not been prepared for immigration yet. In order to have an express entry profile, you have to satisfy the requirements of the federal skilled worker class program. And to make it short and easy, you just need to have IELTS English language test at 6, 7 and higher, depending on your age, experience and stuff like that. And you also need an educational credentials evaluation certificate. So it may take much longer. If you have not yet mastered your English well enough, you first need to do it. You have to submit an express entry profile that would be active, means it also has to satisfy the requirements of federal skilled worker class program, and only then you can submit an application to Jewish community in Manitoba if you are in demand, in the list of in-demand occupations in Manitoba. So pathways exist. How to use them is just a matter of right plan of your immigration and relocation. If you want just to stay in Canada temporary until peace comes back to Israel, you can use the electronic travel authorization if you are approved, and you will know it in 1 to 3 days. You will be able to go to Canada and stay there temporary until the situation stabilizes in Israel. If you're considering moving because you know that the situation, even if it stabilizes for some time, it will still be a danger there, and it has always been, for sure, then please consider all other pathways of getting to the permanent residency so that you have all the rights, almost all the rights as Canadian citizens, and you will be able to be flexible in the country, to work for different employers, to open your own business, stuff like that. If you need any kind of assistance, if you need a consultation personnel on elaborating a strategy on how to get to Canada and how to stay there and how to get to the permanent residency status, please contact us directly. You can write down into our Instagram page. You can write down Israel 2023. As I said in the very beginning, we are opening several slots of consultation time until the end of this year. Only for the citizens of Israel that suffer from the situation that happened. I really hope that this information was useful to you. And if you have any questions, please write down under this live stream when we will put it on our page, or contact us directly. I'm Israel. Hi.